Picture this, a massive arena, lights blinding like stars in the night sky, and a crowd roaring so loud it feels like the walls might shake loose. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena had just wrapped up another charity event, another night of sweat, strength, and smiles for fans who idolized them. As they stepped backstage, their adrenaline still pumping from the energy of the crowd, you could almost feel the electricity buzzing around them. Dwayne flopped down onto a couch with a tired but satisfied grin, his muscles relaxing after hours under those bright spotlights. John grabbed a water bottle, chugging it down as if he'd been running through a desert. Breathing out heavily, "Man, what a night," John said, wiping his forehead. His hoodie was damp, clinging to him like a second skin. Dwayne smirked, leaning forward slightly. "Yeah, Johnny, how many times did you hear you can't see me tonight?" He laughed, crossing his arms over his chest. John chuckled too, shaking his head. "Lost count after 30, bro. But hey, you know what? I still love it." As they sat there, unwinding, something caught Dwayne's eye, a stack of fan mail sitting on the table nearby. It wasn't unusual. These letters came by the hundreds every week. But this one stood out. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, almost like the writer had poured their heart into each letter. Curious, Dwayne picked it up and tossed it to John. "Hey, check this out." John caught the envelope mid-air, glancing at it before opening it carefully. His expression softened as he read aloud. "Dear John Cena and Dwayne Johnson," his voice trailed off momentarily, then grew stronger. "My name is Amelia, and I'm 9 years old. I love wrestling more than anything. I never miss your matches. I know all your moves, everything about WWE." He paused, looking over at Dwayne with raised eyebrows. Then continued, reading slower now, letting the words sink in. "But my biggest dream isn't just to see you. I want to invite you to my birthday party." Another pause. "People tell me it's impossible, but I believe that impossible is just a word. With love, your biggest fan, Amelia." At the bottom of the page, taped carefully, was a photograph. A little girl in a wheelchair, her dark skin glowing against the bright WWE-themed t-shirt she wore. Her smile, it was infectious. Determination sparkled in her eyes like diamonds. Dwayne leaned closer, studying the picture. "Impossible is just a word," he repeated softly, nodding slowly. "I like this kid already." John grinned, setting the letter down gently. "Me too." They exchanged glances, silent understanding passing between them. This wasn't just any letter, it was a call to action. "All right," John said finally, clapping his hands together. "What do you think? Should we make this happen?" Dwayne's grin widened, his eyes lighting up. "Hell yeah. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. She's never going to forget this birthday." And just like that, two legends made a decision that would change Amelia's life forever. The sun had dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue across the city. The pizzeria where Amelia's birthday party was happening sat nestled on a quiet street corner, its windows glowing softly like a beacon of joy against the evening shadows. Inside, laughter bubbled up, kids giggling, pizza boxes stacked high, and colorful balloons bobbing lazily in the air. It felt safe here, harmonious even, untouched by the world outside. Amelia sat at the center of it all, her wheelchair adorned with handmade streamers that sparkled under the soft lights. Her WWE-themed t-shirt, a bright red one featuring John Cena's iconic "You Can't See Me" pose, fit snugly over her small frame. She wore her hair pulled back into two neat braids, each tied with blue ribbons that matched her sneakers. Her smile? Infectious. To anyone watching, this moment seemed perfect, a celebration of innocence and happiness. But then, something shifted. The distant roar of motorcycle engines cut through the peaceful atmosphere outside. Within moments, several bikers clad in leather jackets and heavy boots dismounted their machines, their presence instantly commanding attention. They strutted toward the entrance, their boots thudding heavily against the pavement. Each step they took radiated arrogance, as though the world owed them respect simply for existing. Dwayne and John, who had been observing discreetly from their parked SUV nearby, exchanged concerned glances. Something about these men didn't sit right. Their demeanor screamed trouble, and Dwayne's instincts kicked in immediately. "This doesn't feel good," he muttered under his breath, his jaw tightening slightly. John nodded, his eyes narrowing as he adjusted his baseball cap lower over his forehead. Inside the pizzeria, the mood changed almost instantly. Conversations quieted down, parents exchanging wary looks as the bikers made their way to the counter. One of them accidentally bumped into Amelia's table, spilling soda all over her prized WWE t-shirt. For a second, time froze. Amelia's hands trembled as she clutched an empty cup, her face pale with shock. I'm sorry," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The biker scoffed, wiping at his jacket aggressively. "You think a sorry is gonna fix this? Do you know how much this damn thing costs? Probably more than you'd ever make begging on the street." His words were sharp, cruel, cutting through the room like a knife. Another biker chimed in, sneering as he looked her over. "What else should we expect from a little crippled beggar, and a black one at that?" Amelia swallowed hard, gripping the arms of her wheelchair tightly. Her friends around her fell silent, unsure what to do. The tension in the air grew thicker, suffocating. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, the lead biker leaned in closer, tilting her wheelchair slightly off balance. "Better be careful, little girl. Wouldn't want to tip you over now, would we?" For a moment, no one moved. No one dared speak. The restaurant remained eerily quiet, every eye fixed on the unfolding scene. But just as the biker prepared to deliver another biting remark, a large hand clamped down firmly on his shoulder. Everyone turned to see who it belonged to, and gasped. The moment the biker tilted Amelia's wheelchair, something primal stirred in Dwayne and John. It wasn't just anger, it was a deep protective instinct that came from years of standing up for what was right, both inside the ring and out. They exchanged a glance, their expressions hardening like stone. This wasn't going to end here. Not on their watch. Dwayne moved first, his massive frame cutting through the tension like a blade slicing through fog. He stepped forward silently, each movement deliberate, controlled. His hand, large, strong, calloused from years of wrestling, clamped down firmly on the biker's shoulder. "Hey buddy," he growled, his voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. The room froze. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to quiet as everyone turned to see who had dared interrupt. John followed close behind, his presence equally commanding. He stood slightly to Dwayne's side, arms crossed, his baseball cap casting a shadow over his eyes. His tone was calm, almost conversational, but there was an edge to it, a warning no one could ignore. "You've got about 3 seconds to take your hands off that wheelchair before I make you regret every word you just said." The biker stiffened under Dwayne's grip, his bravado flickering like a candle in the wind. For a split second, he hesitated, glancing back at his crew for support. But even they looked uneasy now. One of them shifted uncomfortably, another muttered something under his breath, but none stepped forward. Instead, they exchanged nervous looks, sensing the shift in power dynamics. Dwayne leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "And you're going to apologize to her. Right now." His words weren't loud, but they carried weight, like thunder rolling across a stormy sky. Every syllable reverberated through the room, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The biker scoffed, trying to mask his fear with arrogance. He forced a smirk, though it wavered ever so slightly. "Relax, man. We were just messing around." His voice cracked on the last word, betraying his nerves. He glanced at Amelia, then back at Dwayne and John, clearly unsure how to proceed. Amelia sat frozen in her wheelchair, her knuckles white as she gripped the armrests. Her wide eyes darted between the bikers and her heroes, disbelief mixing with awe. Was this really happening? Were The Rock and John Cena actually here, defending her? Dwayne's jaw tightened. He didn't buy the act for a second. "Does she look like she's laughing?" he asked, pointing at Amelia. Her small frame trembled, but there was steel in her gaze, a quiet defiance that mirrored their own. She might have been scared, but she wasn't backing down. John took a step closer, his towering height making the biker shrink back involuntarily. "Apologize," he repeated, his voice firmer now, brooking no argument. The biker hesitated again, his smirk faltering completely. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he raised his hands in mock surrender. All right, geez," he spat, turning toward Amelia. "Sorry, kid. Didn't mean to hurt your feelings." But his tone was anything but sincere. Laced with sarcasm, it dripped with disdain. His crew chuckled nervously, exchanging knowing smirks. To anyone paying attention, it was clear, they thought they'd gotten away with it. Dwayne and John didn't miss a beat. Their expressions remained unchanged, their stances unwavering. They weren't buying it. And as the bikers turned to leave, signaling for their group to follow, the tension in the room only grew thicker. Customers still sat frozen, too afraid to move or speak. The bikers' movements were slow, deliberate, almost taunting, as if daring someone to stop them. Just as the lead biker reached the door, he spun around without warning, swinging a glass bottle straight toward Dwayne's head. The attack was fast, sudden, fueled by pure arrogance. But he never stood a chance. The tension in the pizzeria had reached its breaking point. The bikers, humiliated by Dwayne and John's presence, were clearly itching for a way to regain control of the situation. As they turned toward the exit, their movements slow and deliberate, it was almost as if they were daring someone, anyone, to stop them. But no one moved. No one dared breathe too loudly. Dwayne and John stood like statues, their eyes locked on the group. Every muscle in their bodies was coiled tight, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. Amelia sat frozen in her wheelchair, gripping the arms so hard her knuckles blanched white. Her friends huddled together behind her, whispering nervously. Even the restaurant staff seemed paralyzed, unsure whether this nightmare would escalate further or finally end. Just as the lead biker reached the door, he spun around without warning, swinging a glass bottle straight toward Dwayne's head. Time slowed down. The bottle whistled through the air, catching the dim light from the overhead lamps. For a split second, it looked like it might connect, a cheap shot meant to humiliate one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But Dwayne wasn't just any man. He ducked effortlessly, his reflexes razor-sharp even outside the ring. The bottle shattered against the counter behind him, shards of glass scattering across the floor like icy confetti. Before the Boker could process what had happened, Dwayne exploded into motion. His fist, a hammer forged from years of discipline and power, connected with the biker's gut. The sound was sickening, a thud that echoed through the silent room. The force of the punch lifted the biker clean off his feet, sending him crashing to the ground like a felled tree. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the rest of the bikers froze, momentarily stunned. But chaos loves company. One of the other bikers lunged at John, his fist raised high. It was a reckless move, born of desperation rather than strategy. John didn't flinch. With the precision of a surgeon, he caught the biker's arm mid-swing, twisted it behind his back, and slammed him face first onto a nearby table. Plates and silverware clattered to the floor, adding a cacophony to the already electrified atmosphere. Another biker rushed at Dwayne, attempting to grab him from behind. Big mistake. Dwayne spun around with the grace of a dancer and the ferocity of a lion. Grabbing the man by the waist, he hoisted him up as though he weighed nothing more than a child. Then came the signature move, the rock bottom. Dwayne drove the biker down onto the hard floor with such force that the entire room shook. Groans erupted from the pile of defeated thugs sprawled across the pizzeria. By now, the remaining biker realized he was alone. His eyes darted around frantically, searching for an escape route. But before he could bolt, John grabbed him by the back of his jacket and tossed him effortlessly into the heap of his groaning comrades. The fight was over almost as quickly as it began. Silence fell over the restaurant, broken only by the ragged breathing of the defeated bikers and the scattered applause of stunned onlookers. Dwayne cracked his knuckles, exhaling sharply. That's what happens when you mess with the wrong people. His voice was calm but carried a weight that silenced any lingering doubts about who held the power here. John turned to Amelia, his expression softening instantly. Kneeling beside her, he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You okay, champ?" She nodded slowly, still in shock, her eyes shining with admiration. Her friends and the other customers erupted into cheers, the tension breaking at last. Someone shouted, "Heroes!" Others joined in, chanting their names. Amelia's mother hurried over, tears streaming down her face. "I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough." Dwayne crouched down, meeting her gaze. "You don't have to say anything. We weren't about to stand by and let that happen." As the wail of approaching police sirens filled the air, Amelia finally found her voice. Looking up at her heroes, she whispered, "You guys are amazing." John chuckled softly. "Nah, kid. You're amazing." Dwayne grinned, adding, "And don't let anybody tell you otherwise." As the flashing red and blue lights of the police cars bathed the pizzeria's entrance, Amelia sat in her wheelchair, still gripping the arms tightly. Her heart raced, not from fear anymore, but from disbelief. She had just witnessed two legends step into her world, not as untouchable superstars on a screen, but as real-life protectors who stood up for her when no one else could. The weight of what had happened pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe, but in the best possible way. John Cena crouched beside her again, his baseball cap tilted slightly forward, casting a shadow over his face. His voice was soft, almost conspiratorial, like he was sharing a secret only she could hear. "You okay, champ?" he asked, repeating the question with genuine concern. Amelia nodded quickly, her braids bouncing slightly with the movement. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out at first. Finally, she managed a shaky whisper, "I still can't believe you guys are really here." Dwayne smirked, leaning against the counter behind him. He crossed his arms, his hoodie stretching slightly across his broad shoulders. "Believe it, kid," he said, his tone warm but firm. Then, after a pause, he added, "But you still haven't had your real birthday present yet." Amelia's eyes widened so much they looked like they might pop out of her head. "Wait. What do you mean?" she stammered, her voice rising an octave. John grinned mischievously, glancing at Dwayne before turning back to Amelia. "Let's just say we don't do things halfway." The room seemed to hold its breath. Even Amelia's mother, who had been quietly thanking the officers and hugging her daughter, froze mid-sentence. Her brow furrowed in confusion, but there was something else in her expression, trust. Whatever these men had planned, she knew it would be something extraordinary. Amelia's mind raced. What could possibly top this? She'd already met her heroes, watched them defend her honor, and lived through a moment most kids could only dream of. But now, They were hinting that something even bigger was coming. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the armrests again, anticipation bubbling inside her like soda fizz. Dwayne leaned down closer, his dark eyes locking onto hers. There was a twinkle in them, a mix of mischief and determination. "Come on, champ," he said, his voice low but playful. "You trust us, right?" Amelia didn't hesitate. She nodded fiercely, her braids swaying with emotion. Of course she trusted them. These weren't just wrestlers, they were heroes. If they said there was more, she believed them completely. John clapped his hands together, breaking the tension. "All right then," he announced, standing up straight and adjusting his cap. "Let's get moving." The restaurant staff, still buzzing from the earlier excitement, helped Amelia's mom settle the bill while customers continued to thank Dwayne and John for stepping in. Some even snapped photos or asked for autographs, but both men politely declined, keeping their focus squarely on Amelia. They weren't here for fame, they were here for her. Outside, the officers had just finished loading the bikers into squad cars when they saw the group stepping out of the pizzeria. The officer in charge gave Dwayne and John a respectful nod. "You two ever get tired of saving people?" he asked, half joking. Dwayne smirked, his confidence unwavering. "Never." John shot Amelia a quick glance, his grin widening. "Besides, we're just following her lead. She's a real fighter." Amelia beamed, gripping the arms of her wheelchair tighter. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like just a kid in a chair. She felt strong. Like someone who mattered. Someone who could make a difference. Her mother, still looking bewildered but deeply moved by everything that had happened, was about to ask where exactly they were going when Dwayne gestured toward a large black SUV parked near the curb. "We've got somewhere to be," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "And we don't want to be late." John crouched beside Amelia's wheelchair, his expression softening. "What do you say, birthday girl? Up for an adventure?" Amelia's excitement nearly burst out of her. "Yes," she shouted, her voice ringing out clear and full of joy. With ease born of years of strength and precision, Dwayne lifted her wheelchair into the SUV, securing it in place. Her mother climbed in beside her, still looking bewildered but trusting. John took the passenger seat while Dwayne slid behind the wheel, and soon they were cruising through the city streets. At first, Amelia tried to guess where they were headed, throwing out ideas like a detective solving a mystery. "Are we going to another restaurant? Or maybe a movie theater?" Each guess was met with John's amused grin and a simple shake of his head. "You'll see," he teased, his tone light but cryptic. That became his mantra every time she asked, "You'll see." As they drove, the city lights blurred past the windows, painting streaks of gold and silver across the glass. Amelia watched in awe, her anticipation growing with every passing second. She had no idea where they were going, but she didn't care. Whatever it was, she knew it would be unforgettable. Then suddenly, the skyline opened up, and Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Ahead of them, glowing under massive stadium lights, was the WWE training facility. Her jaw dropped, her eyes widening impossibly large. "No way," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. Dwayne glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his grin widening. "Way." The SUV pulled into a private entrance, and before Amelia even had time to react, a staff member opened the door, greeting them like VIPs. As they stepped inside, Amelia's mother looked around in stunned silence, her hand covering her mouth. This wasn't just any building, it was a temple of wrestling greatness. "Welcome to the WWE family, champ," John said softly, his words carrying the weight of a promise fulfilled. The SUV rolled to a stop in front of the WWE training facility, its massive structure glowing under stadium lights that seemed to pierce through the night sky. Amelia's heart raced as she gazed out the window, her small hands gripping the arms of her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles turned white. She blinked repeatedly, convinced she was dreaming. This couldn't be real. But it was. Dwayne stepped out first, his charcoal hoodie catching the light as he moved around to the back of the SUV. John followed close behind, adjusting his navy hoodie and baseball cap before opening the door for Amelia. Her mother sat beside her, still looking bewildered but deeply moved by everything that had unfolded. "I don't even know what to say," her mom whispered again, shaking her head in disbelief. "You don't have to say anything," Dwayne replied, meeting her gaze with a reassuring smile. Then, turning to Amelia, he added, "Ready, champ." Amelia nodded furiously, her braids bouncing slightly with emotion. Dwayne carefully lifted her wheelchair out of the vehicle, setting it down on the smooth pavement. The staff member who greeted them, dressed in a crisp WWE uniform, ushered them toward a private entrance. As they stepped inside, Amelia felt like she'd entered another world entirely. The hallway they walked through was lined with framed photos of legendary wrestlers, championship belts mounted on velvet stands, and memorabilia from decades of wrestling greatness. Each step echoed softly against the polished floor, adding to the surreal atmosphere. Amelia's eyes darted everywhere, trying to take it all in. Her mother trailed behind, clutching her purse tightly, overwhelmed but trusting. John slowed his pace to walk beside Amelia, leaning down slightly to speak to her. "You're not just a fan anymore, kid. You're part of the family now." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Part of the family? She glanced up at him, her wide eyes shimmering with emotion. "Really?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Really," John confirmed, tapping the brim of his cap with a grin. Dwayne shot him a knowing look over his shoulder before stopping in front of a large set of double doors. He placed a hand on the handle, pausing to glance back at Amelia. "You ready?" She hesitated for only a second before nodding again, her grip tightening on the armrests. Dwayne pushed the doors open dramatically, revealing a sight that left Amelia speechless. Inside was a full-size WWE ring, illuminated by bright spotlights that cast golden beams across the space. Trainers stood nearby, smiling warmly as if they'd been expecting her all along. But what truly made Amelia's jaw drop was the object sitting on a podium in the center of the ring, a custom championship belt. Gold gleamed under the lights, and engraved on the plate in bold letters was her name, Amelia. Tears welled in her eyes instantly, blurring her vision. "No way," she breathed, her voice barely audible over the hum of excitement filling the room. John chuckled, patting her shoulder gently. "Told you we don't do things halfway." Dwayne knelt beside her chair, his expression softening. "Amelia, we wanted to give you something special. You've got the heart of a fighter, and fighters deserve their moment in the ring." Amelia swallowed hard, trying to contain the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "But I can't," she started, her voice shaky. "You can," John interrupted firmly, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "And you will." One of the trainers approached, nodding toward the ring. "We set up a special way for you to enter. You up for it?" Amelia wiped her eyes quickly, nodding with determination. With the help of the trainers, they guided her wheelchair up a custom ramp leading directly into the ring. As soon as her wheels touched the mat, she felt something she'd never experienced before, an undeniable sense of belonging. This wasn't just any ring, it was the WWE ring. And she was in it. The staff handed her a microphone, and though her hands trembled, she brought it to her lips without hesitation. Her voice, shaky at first, grew steadier with each word. "I just want to say thank you to John Cena, to The Rock, and to everyone who believed in me. Because I know now that impossible is just a word." Dwayne and John clapped, grinning as the small group in the facility erupted into applause. Then John raised his hand dramatically, silencing the room. And now, let's make this official. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the youngest ever honorary WWE champion, Amelia. Dwayne lifted the championship belt, placing it carefully in her lap. It was heavy, crafted from real gold and leather, not some toy replica. Amelia traced her fingers over the engraving, her name shining brightly under the spotlights. She had never felt so strong. The golden glow of the spotlights bathed the WWE ring, casting Amelia in a radiant light that made her seem larger than life. She sat at the center of it all, gripping the microphone tightly as though it were an extension of herself. Her small hands trembled slightly, but her voice, when she finally found it, rang out clear and steady, carrying a weight far beyond her years. "I just want to say thank you," she began, her tone soft but full of emotion. "To John Cena, to The Rock, and to everyone who believed in me," she paused, glancing around the room, at the trainers smiling warmly, at her mother wiping away tears, and most importantly, at Dwayne and John standing beside her like twin pillars of strength. "Because I know now that impossible is just a word." Her words hung in the air for a moment, heavy with meaning. For Amelia, this wasn't just a declaration, it was a revelation. All her life, people had told her what she couldn't do because of her wheelchair. But tonight, she had proven them wrong. She had stepped into the ring, not with her legs, but with her heart, and claimed her place among giants. Dwayne clapped his hands together, breaking the silence with a booming cheer. "Damn right," he shouted, his grin wide and proud. John joined in, raising his arms dramatically as if conducting an orchestra of applause. The small crowd of WWE staff erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the cavernous training facility. It felt like the entire universe was celebrating Amelia's triumph alongside her. But John wasn't done yet. He raised his hand, silencing the room with a single gesture. His expression turned serious, almost ceremonial, as he addressed the gathered audience. "And now," he announced, his voice deep and commanding, "let's make this official." He gestured toward Amelia, who sat holding the custom championship belt in her lap. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the youngest ever honorary WWE champion, Amelia." The room erupted again, but this time, something shifted. This wasn't just applause, it was validation. Amelia wasn't just a fan anymore. She was family. Dwayne leaned down, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You ready for this, champ?" he asked, his voice low but warm. Amelia nodded fiercely, her braids bouncing slightly with emotion. Without hesitation, Dwayne lifted the gleaming championship belt from her lap and held it high above his head, turning slowly so everyone could see it. Then, with deliberate care, he placed it back in her hands, letting her feel its weight, the weight of victory, of resilience, of belonging. "This isn't just a belt," Dwayne said, his tone unwavering. "This is a symbol. Fighters deserve their moment, and tonight, this is yours." Amelia traced her fingers over the engraving one more time, her name shining brightly under the spotlights. Tears welled in her eyes again, but these weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of pride. She had never felt so strong. John crouched beside her wheelchair, resting a hand gently on the belt. "Say whatever's in your heart, champ," he encouraged softly. Amelia took a deep breath, looking around the room once more. Her gaze lingered on the framed photos of wrestling legends lining the walls, men and women who had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Then she looked at Dwayne and John, two living legends who had shown her that strength isn't about standing, it's about fighting. Finally, she turned to her mother, whose face was streaked with tears but glowing with pride. "I used to think," Amelia began, her voice shaky at first but growing stronger with each word, "that because I was in this chair, people wouldn't take me seriously. That no matter how much I loved wrestling, I could never be a part of it." She paused, swallowing hard. But today, you guys showed me that I don't need to stand to be strong. I don't need to walk to be a fighter. I already am one. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on Amelia. Even Dwayne and John exchanged a glance, their expressions softening with admiration. They had seen countless athletes rise to greatness, but there was something different about Amelia, something pure and unshakable. "Damn right you are," Dwayne said, clapping his hands together again. The room erupted into applause once more, the energy electric. John grinned, leaning closer to Amelia. "Well, I think it's time for a victory lap." Amelia tilted her head, confused. What?" Dwayne walked over to the corner of the ring, picking up a small remote control with a dramatic flourish. With a press of a button, the floor of the ring shifted slightly beneath her wheels. The WWE staff had prepared something special, a rotating platform built into the center of the ring. Slowly, it began to turn, allowing Amelia to be displayed like a true champion. She laughed, gripping the championship belt tighter as the lights shone down on her. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a spectator. She felt like a star. The moment was bigger than anything she could have dreamed of, and she soaked it all in, the cheers, the lights, the sense of belonging. As the platform came to a stop, John took the microphone once more, addressing the small audience with a mischievous grin. "I think we all know that every great champion needs a signature move." Amelia's eyes widened. She had spent years watching her favorite wrestlers perform their iconic finishers, but she had never thought about having one of her own. John leaned closer, his tone playful. "So, Amelia, you got one?" For a moment, Amelia hesitated, her mind racing. Then suddenly, inspiration struck. She formed a fist, raising it triumphantly in the air. "The unbreakable punch," she declared, her voice ringing out with confidence. Dwayne's eyebrows shot up. "I like it." John smirked, pretending to cower. "Does it work?" Amelia grinned, playing along. "You want to find out?" John feigned nervousness, backing up a step. "Oh." The trainers burst into laughter, the energy in the room reaching new heights. One of the WWE trainers stepped forward, still smiling. "All right, champ, we've got one last surprise for you." Amelia tilted her head, curiosity bubbling inside her. "Another one?" The trainer nodded, stepping aside to reveal a TV screen set up near the ring. "We reached out to a few people who wanted to congratulate you personally." John clicked a button on a remote, and the screen flickered to life. First, Bianca Belair appeared, her smile warm and encouraging. "Hey, Amelia. I just want to say, girl, you are a true inspiration. You're strong, you're fearless, and today, you are a champion. Keep believing in yourself because I know you're going to do amazing things." Amelia gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. "No way." Next, Randy Orton appeared on the screen, his voice calm but sincere. "What's up, Amelia? Listen, I've seen a lot of tough competitors in my career, but you've got something special. Welcome to the WWE family, champ." Amelia was speechless, her heart swelling with every word. Finally, the screen lit up with none other than Triple H. "Amelia, today you proved what being a champion is really about. It's not about the size of the fight in you, it's about the size of your heart. And yours? Yours is bigger than most people I know. From all of us at WWE, congratulations. You're officially one of us." The screen went dark, leaving the room silent for a moment. Then Amelia let out a breathless laugh, still in shock. Dwayne leaned on the ropes, smiling at her. "You okay there, champ?" Amelia looked at him, then at John, then at her mother. She gripped the belt tightly, lifting it above her head. I'm unbreakable, she shouted, her voice echoing through the arena. The WWE training facility buzzed with energy, the kind that could only come from witnessing something extraordinary. Amelia sat in her wheelchair at the center of the ring, her custom championship belt gleaming under the bright spotlights. Her heart still raced, but now it was fueled by pure joy rather than fear or disbelief. For the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged, not just as a fan, but as a true part of the wrestling world. John Cena crouched beside her, his baseball cap tilted slightly forward, casting a shadow over his face. His grin was wide, mischievous even, as he leaned closer to whisper conspiratorially, "You know what every great champion needs, right?" Amelia tilted her head, her braids swaying slightly with the movement. "What?" John stood up straight, gesturing dramatically toward the crowd of trainers and staff gathered around the ring. "A signature move." The room erupted into laughter, the tension of earlier melting away like ice under the sun. Dwayne stepped forward, crossing his arms over his chest. His smirk was unmistakable, the kind that said he already knew exactly what was coming next. "Yeah, champ," he chimed in, his deep voice carrying authority. "Every legend has one. Something that makes them unforgettable." Amelia's eyes widened, her mind racing as she tried to imagine herself performing a wrestling move. She had spent years watching her favorite wrestlers execute their iconic finishers, the people's elbow, the attitude adjustment, the RKO, but she had never thought about having one of her own. The idea seemed almost too big to comprehend. John knelt down again, resting a hand on the championship belt in her lap. "So, Amelia, you got one?" For a moment, Amelia hesitated, her fingers tracing the engraved plate on the belt where her name shone brightly. Then, suddenly, inspiration struck. She formed a fist, raising it triumphantly in the air. "The unbreakable punch," she declared, her voice ringing out with confidence. Dwayne's eyebrows shot up, clearly impressed. "I like it." John grinned, pretending to cower. "Does it work?" Amelia smirked, playing along. "You want to find out?" John feigned nervousness, backing up a step. "Oh." The trainers burst into laughter, the energy in the room reaching new heights. One of the WWE trainers stepped forward, still smiling. "All right, champ, we've got one last surprise for you." Amelia tilted her head, curiosity bubbling inside her. "Another one?" The trainer nodded, stepping aside to reveal a TV screen set up near the ring. "We reached out to a few people who wanted to congratulate you personally." John clicked a button on a remote, and the screen flickered to life. First, Bianca Belair appeared, her smile warm and encouraging. "Hey, Amelia. I just want to say, girl, you are a true inspiration. You're strong, you're fearless, and today, you are a champion. Keep believing in yourself because I know you're going to do amazing things." Amelia gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. "No way." Next, Randy Orton appeared on the screen, his voice calm but sincere. "What's up, Amelia? Listen, I've seen a lot of tough competitors in my career, but you've got something special. Welcome to the WWE family, champ." Amelia was speechless, her heart swelling with every word. Finally, the screen lit up with none other than Triple H. "Amelia, today you proved what being a champion is really about. It's not about the size of the fight in you, it's about the size of your heart. And yours? Yours is bigger than most people I know. From all of us at WWE, congratulations. You're officially one of us." The screen went dark, leaving the room silent for a moment. Then Amelia let out a breathless laugh, still in shock. Dwayne leaned on the ropes, smiling at her. "You okay there, champ?" Amelia looked at him, then at John, then at her mother. She gripped the belt tightly, lifting it above her head. "I'm unbreakable," she shouted, her voice echoing through the arena. The WWE training facility felt like it was glowing with energy, the kind that only comes when dreams collide with reality. Amelia sat in her wheelchair at the center of the ring, gripping her championship belt tightly. Her heart raced as she absorbed every second of this surreal moment. She had already faced down bullies, been defended by her heroes, and stepped into an actual WWE ring. But now, something even bigger awaited her. John Cena stood near the edge of the ring, holding a small remote control in his hand. He glanced over at Amelia, his lips curling into a knowing grin. "You ready for one last surprise, champ?" he asked, his tone playful but warm. Amelia blinked, her wide eyes darting between John and Dwayne. How could there possibly be more? This night had already exceeded anything she'd ever imagined. Still, she nodded, her braids bouncing slightly with emotion. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. Dwayne leaned on the ropes, crossing his arms over his chest. His expression softened as he watched her. "We told you we don't do things halfway," he said, his deep voice carrying both authority and pride. "And we meant it." John pressed a button on the remote, and a nearby TV screen flickered to life. The room fell silent as the first message began to play. It was Bianca Belair, her smile radiant and encouraging. "Hey, Amelia," she said, her voice warm and sincere. "I just want to say, girl, you are a true inspiration. You're strong, you're fearless, and today, you are a champion. Keep believing in yourself because I know you're going to do amazing things." Amelia gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Her eyes shimmered with tears, though they didn't fall. She couldn't believe what she was seeing, or hearing. One of her favorite wrestlers was talking directly to her. Next up was Randy Orton, his calm demeanor instantly recognizable. "What's up, Amelia?" he began, his tone steady but heartfelt. "Listen, I've seen a lot of tough competitors in my career, but you've got something special. Welcome to the WWE family, champ." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. She looked around the room, half expecting someone to pinch her awake from this dream. But no, this was real. Every word ringing through the speakers felt like validation, like proof that she truly belonged here. Finally, the screen lit up with none other than Triple H. His presence commanded attention, even through a pre-recorded video. "Amelia," he began, his voice firm yet kind, "today you proved what being a champion is really about. It's not about the size of the fight in you, it's about the size of your heart. And yours? Yours is bigger than most people I know. From all of us at WWE, congratulations. You're officially one of us." As the screen went dark, the silence in the room lingered for a moment, heavy with emotion. Then, slowly, the staff and trainers erupted into applause. Amelia let out a shaky laugh, overwhelmed but ecstatic. She turned to Dwayne and John, her eyes shining with gratitude. "How did you guys do this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. John crouched beside her wheelchair, resting a hand gently on the championship belt in her lap. "When a future champion invites us to her birthday, we take it seriously," he replied, his grin widening. "Besides, legends like you deserve nothing less." Dwayne knelt down too, meeting her gaze with unwavering confidence. "This isn't the end, Amelia. This is just the beginning. You've earned your place here, and trust me, we'll be watching." Amelia's mother stood nearby, tears streaming down her face. She had spent years worrying about how the world would treat her daughter, fearing that people would see only the wheelchair and not the warrior within. But tonight, standing in a WWE ring surrounded by champions, Amelia wasn't just a girl in a chair. She was unbreakable. As the applause continued, Amelia gripped the microphone again, her voice stronger now. I don't even know what to say, she admitted, her words trembling with emotion. But I promise, I won't let any of you down. I'm unbreakable. The room erupted once more, cheers echoing through the cavernous space. Dwayne and John exchanged a glance, their expressions filled with admiration. They had witnessed countless athletes rise to greatness, but there was something different about Amelia, something pure and unshakable. The night air was cool and crisp as Dwayne Johnson and John Cena stood outside the WWE training facility, watching Amelia's mother help her into their car. The SUV's headlights cast long shadows across the parking lot, blending with the faint glow of stadium lights still illuminating the building behind them. For a moment, neither man spoke. They simply watched, letting the weight of what had just happened sink in. John broke the silence first, his tone thoughtful but warm. "You know," he began, glancing at Dwayne, "we've done some pretty incredible things in our careers." He paused, his lips curling into a small grin. "But this might be one of the best." Dwayne chuckled softly, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, bro. That kid's got something special. Something you can't teach." His voice softened as he continued, almost to himself. "She reminded me why we started doing all this in the first place, to inspire people. To show them that no matter where you come from, or what life throws at you, you can still rise up." Amelia's mother leaned out of the car window for a moment, tears still shining on her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I don't even know how to put this into words, but thank you. You've given her more than just a memory, you've given her belief." John stepped closer, resting a hand gently on the side of the car. "Ma'am, Amelia didn't need us to give her belief. She already had it. All we did was remind her how strong she really is." Dwayne nodded, stepping forward too. "And trust me, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning." Amelia, seated securely in the back seat, craned her neck to look at them. Her fingers were still wrapped tightly around her championship belt, as if afraid someone might take it away. But there was no fear in her eyes now, only determination. "So what happens next?" she asked, her voice eager but tinged with nervous excitement. Dwayne grinned, leaning down so he could meet her gaze directly. "Next? We train you, champ. Every great champion needs to prove they can hold onto their title. And something tells me you're ready for the challenge." John chimed in, pointing toward the training facility. "We'll set up sessions here, with real trainers. You'll learn moves, techniques, everything it takes to stay sharp. Because being a champion isn't just about holding a belt, it's about earning it every single day." Amelia's eyes widened, her jaw dropping slightly. "Wait, does that mean I get to come back?" John laughed, shaking his head. "Of course you do. You think we'd let you go without seeing those championship-level moves in action?" He winked playfully, tapping the brim of his baseball cap. "Besides, like Dwayne said, you're not just part of the WWE family now. You're unbreakable." Her mother looked stunned, blinking back tears as she processed what they were saying. "Are you serious? You'd really do that for her?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with disbelief. One of the WWE trainers approached, clipboard in hand, nodding confidently. "Absolutely. Amelia's already shown us what it means to fight, not just physically, but mentally. It would be an honor to help her grow." As the car pulled away, Amelia twisted in her seat to wave goodbye, her braids bouncing slightly with emotion. Dwayne and John stood side by side, raising their fists in unison, a silent promise that this wasn't the last time they'd see her. They watched until the taillights disappeared into the distance, leaving only the hum of the stadium lights above them. John exhaled slowly, adjusting his hoodie. "Man, I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting tonight to hit me like this. Dwayne smirked, crossing his arms over his chest. Yeah, well, sometimes the biggest fights aren't in the ring, huh? John nodded, his expression softening. And sometimes, the strongest champions are the ones who remind you why you started fighting in the first place. They shared a knowing glance before turning back toward the facility. Inside, the ring still gleamed under the spotlights, waiting for its next champion to step through the ropes. But tonight it wasn't empty. It carried the echoes of laughter, cheers, and the unbreakable spirit of a little girl who refused to let anyone tell her she couldn't dream big. As they walked back inside, Dwayne turned to John, his grin widening. You know, Johnny, I think this is going to be one hell of a journey, for all of us. John chuckled, clapping him on the shoulder. Couldn't agree more, bro. Couldn't agree more.
And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video. It's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.